Going live on a Friday. It has been too long, 2 months, and I thought it would be fun to do another live stream, my friends and relations. It is Friday, the 26th of March, 2021. What a 12 months it has been, hasn't it? Hasn't it? How are you out there? How are you doing? What are you feeling? What did you learn? Did you journal over the last 12 months? I hope you did. I did. I learned a few things. The news is getting back to normal right now if you've been paying attention because there's not a lot to pay attention to. The subject matter all seems kind of banal and boring, except for some giant shipping ship is stuck in the Suez Canal, which is kind of amazing. The biggest story to me isn't that the canal's clogged up, it's that there are ships that big. I didn't know that they made shipping ships with 200,000 ton displacements. That is twice the total displacement of a Nimitz class super carrier that the United States Navy operates 11 of. I didn't know things were that big. I didn't know things could get that big. Apparently they do, and apparently when things are that big, they get stuck in tight places. Or places that didn't seem so tight are now restrictive. Well, that's interesting. I heard some analysts say global trade is affected $440 million per hour because of the backup. I don't know if that's true, but I like throwing out numbers. I like throwing out numbers. So I went for a walk this morning, friends, and it was beautiful out. There's a little bit of moisture in the air, and it reminded me of being on a seaside town like Portland, Maine. So here's a picture of Portland. This is a little lighthouse that is off the kind of mainland a little bit, and I want to use this for a little bit of stimulation, inspiration for what I want to do. The image in my head is kind of reminiscent of some John Stobart paintings my mom and father collected when they were younger, and I have a few in my collection today. And the image, I was walking around and there was this beautiful blue house, and I never saw it with this particular light before, but it was really bright and saturated blue. And maybe that's not quite the right color. And I was walking up a hill to get to it. I was walking up this hill, and this beautiful shiny blue house was just real striking, and I thought it'd be kind of interesting. I thought it'd be fun to take that inspiration as a starting point for the composition today. So something like maybe a little cliff kind of area and a lagoon, and maybe a little village, maybe just a bunch of little houses, and then a few boats. A few boats might be fun. Wouldn't that be cool? Like a sailboat here, and maybe like a little center console fishing boat, maybe here. Would be fun. I think that might be cool. I don't know what a lot of these things look like off the top of my head completely, but I just wanted to get an idea in of something that might be cool. And in these John Stobart paintings, you know you're in a village, a fishing village, because even past the skyline of the houses are all these masts for the sailing ships. This is a very diluted water and orange juice mix. I find it to be better than just water or just orange juice by itself. So trickle in, trickle in. Haven't done one of these in a long time, so I assume the viewer count's going to be pretty low, but that's okay. I'm mostly making this for other people to watch later. I might be doing a lecture for some Micah students one of these upcoming days when I'm not working. I don't think that blue is quite right. I think I want a more deep. See, brightness is all contextual too. What is this color feels pretty bright right now, but against the background, which is this, I don't know, slate, sea foam kind of color. Let's establish let's establish a sky back there. Something a lot brighter. Let's see what this looks like. I also want the feeling of clouds moving over. I want to try to convey the sense of wind in this drawing. How can we do that? Well, we have to have lots of things that are demonstrating the blowing of the wind. So for one, I want to have a couple clouds that are moving Let's blend. Let's get a nice little blend going. This area is going to be darker blue, the shadow side. I want there to be the sun coming sort of from this corner here. So we can have some clouds blowing over. Maybe like a nice high contrast spot where the cloud is right behind the house here. That might be fun. A little gray. Is it too dark? Might be a little too dark. But it might be good for really showing off this house. Let's get a little weather vane chicken thing. Do the weather vanes point into the wind, don't they? They point into the wind. They tell you what direction the wind is coming from. Because they're aerodynamic. Right. That's what we want. What do they use? Like a rooster, a chicken? Something like that? Coffee today is Green Mountain coffee from Salbles. All right. Got a nice mess of a page right now. Let's make some more decisions. What I find is great about digital drawing is just the speed at which you can make decisions. So any little mark that can help you make a decision now might save you time later on the refining process. So we have our windows and doors, shutters. So it's okay to go quick while you're making these decisions because then you'll refine it later. So we want some kind of dock area which will have some like wood pilings. Maybe just a little bit of that dock is catching light. It'd be really fun to have like lit areas and shadow areas. Shadow area is going to be more blue. Lit area is a little bit warmer. So there's the shadow down here, and then maybe there's some kind of ramp going up. Where would that ramp come from? Would it be here? I don't know. Would that be fun? Some kind of thing? Maybe there's a little wall. Maybe there's a little pergola type business here. Like maybe a little tree garden thing would be kind of fun. Kind of cool. Just a little kind of whippy trees. When I've been out to the coast, it's funny seeing the trees grow in pattern with what the prominent direction of the wind is. Certainly out on the west coast, that wind is coming in from the sea, and you see the trees kind of growing away from the sea, which is kind of neat, kind of interesting. They're constantly blowing in that direction. We'll have a darker watercolor out by where the boats are. And then we have this gray, like a gray-hulled ship here. This is that center console. And it's okay to draw over stuff a bunch of times. All right. Maybe just the tip of that boat is catching a little bit of light. It's catching some sunlight. It would be pretty high contrast. And then next to it we'll have a wooden sailing ship. Something kind of classy. Maybe vintage looking. Might be fun. Old and new sitting next to each other might be fun. So it would typically be good to draw this out first, but I want to get right into color because I'm getting excited. I'm getting kind of excited. Let's get some more houses in the background here. Maybe there's a brick house over here. Maybe it's got a little rooftop deck thing. It's warmer on that side, warmer on the sunny side. Can we get a little, do we want a little lighthouse? That'd be fun. Having a little lighthouse be fun over here. Why not? I'll play around with it. I'm wondering if that mask should be straight up or just kind of leaning back just a little bit. Just a little bit. Give it a little bit of lean. I like to mark a color down and then pick that color somewhere along the gradient. Maybe some kind of bush. This is going to be the walking path. It's a good angle there. It should be like this. Be a little kind of wavy, maybe a little wavy walking path. There's some cart divots. Just something. Don't really know what this is. Stone wall maybe? Let's get a dark color and just kind of rough out some stones. Look at the stones. I used to do a little bit of sailing with some friends. Mr. Mark James down in Baltimore used to take me out. It's fun with my friend Claire. Good times on Magnus sailboat. Beneteau back in the day. Here's some kind of rocky wall. Not to be confused with the rocky road to Dublin. And then maybe along this, maybe along this path, someone put a barrel. They put a little old shipping barrel. Once a whiskey barrel a long time ago. Sort of making it fun. And there's some vegetation growing out of that barrel. Some kind of hardy plant. What's up, phone? Phone's trying to talk to me. What you want? Tell me what you want with my phone? Yes. Messages. Friends telling me that there are people streaming, sleeping on Twitch. You can just film yourself in bed, trying to sleep, and have your followers watch you. I feel like that is highly unproductive and a little creepy. I think people are just naturally going to be creeps. If you don't want that kind of attention, then don't put yourself out there. You got to take responsibility for some of the attention that you attract. Maybe all of it isn't fair, but certainly some of it. I've been thinking a lot about rhythms in behavior lately. The difference between, for instance, the boomers and Gen X. I have this theory that whatever was the tenor of the parental generation, there will be an inevitable backlash against that. So if one generation, let's say my mom was born of the lost generation, which I think is the era between, it wasn't the baby boom of World War I or World War II, it was the birth years in the 30s before, and that was a very conservative, frugal group of people. They grew up in the Great Depression before the war or during the war, where there were caps and limits on things you can own. Then after that, the baby boom, and as Zoomers will call boomers, is the group of people who were born post World War in the greatest growth economically and physically the United States or any nation has ever experienced. The most rapid increase in wages and earnings and quality of life. Were things the best they've ever been? Maybe. Are things better now? That's more debatable. I know there were some social issues, but I don't think what you can argue about is the rapid change in the standard of living between pre-war and post-war in America. Now, those kids, I think, had a certain ideology when they grew up. And then their children, which was Gen X, tended to have a opposite kind of way of looking at things. I've noticed growing up that my Gen X or older siblings are a little bit more chill than the typical uh, stereotypes of boomers in general. And I wondered what that was all about. And ultimately, it's the answer to the question, where do I fit in? Where do I fit in? What's my psyche lined up to or against or something? Maybe there's some like ruins. There used to be some kind of store or building down here. There probably would be some kind of little hut or shop, right? Let's make a little like yellow, little canary yellow building down here. Where do I fit in? Where do we fit in? That's a question that we always ask. Do I fit in? Do I have friends, relations? So if I'm, even though I was born, I'm an elder millennial, I think they consider. I was born in 83. Whereas a true millennial was born like 85 to 95. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to close some applications here. That's what I was thinking about last night. Is there some kind of rhythm that we could then predict what the future is going to be? So I predict that children who are born now, what does that mean? So what's the tenor of parents during COVID? Are they conservative? Are they restricted? If they're restricted and very cautious with who their kids play with, where they go, are we taking less vacations? I think this generation, 20 years from now, will be very extroverted, wanting to do all the adventures, all the fun things. Excuse me. It's like, what made the Roaring '20s roaring? Or was it the soldiers returning from World War I and celebrating? Or was it the people who had been locked down for a year during the Spanish flu pandemic, mourning and recovering and reclaiming life? What is it to be alive, having fun, going to speakeasies? Mass criminality, because anybody who participated or went to a speakeasy was breaking the law a little bit. Today, what do we have? We have a decriminalized drug culture in America. We have the failure of the war on drugs. We have a return of massive inner city crime and massive demonstrations of laws and standards breaking through COVID. What is the reaction going to be? Could that yield a more conservative youth issue, a more law-abiding issue? Now, what would be that spectrum? What is the category of law-abiding or not law-abiding? Would that be conformative and non-conformative? I feel like the Gen Xers generally were less conformative than previous or generations afterwards. I think, like, when I look at my nieces who are 8 and 11 years younger than me, I think. Maybe more than that. I can't do math right now because I'm drawing and talking. There's no room for math in my brain. But their generation seemed much preppier than my generation was. A lot of people in my generation wore crazy clothes and very casual. My Gen Xers were all about, my brother Rick went to college in the early 90s. That was the grunge time. Less preppy. Even at very preppy schools, people didn't dress as preppy. They dressed more casually in the 90s. Now, are those generalizations of the generations accurate, or is it just my anecdotal individual experience? I just want to know where things are going, and do I fit in? Do I have a good grasp on the reality that is, or is my perspective of reality somehow skewed and wrong? So don't you want to know if you're wrong? I think a lot of people don't really care if they're wrong or not. They just think they're right all the time. It's a lot of ego. It's a lot of ego. Bow spread over here. Thinking about my friends KT and Shro down in Naples. with their boat culture, their boat people getting the boaties on, getting their boaties on. Okay, let's solve some more questions. Anywhere that we have this kind of seafoam green gray needs a problem solved. So we got the dock needs to be finished out. And I want to desaturate parts of this dock too, so it's not all like brand new wood. It's got some weathering. It's been heavily weathered, too saturated. Too saturated. Just throwing down some colors. Now what else do we have on docks? We got lots of seabird poop. That's important. We gotta have a couple seabirds in here. Bunch of seagulls and burbs. So many birds are out these days. Get a good kind of slate green, gray rock color. Do some kind of fence. Would a fence be fun? Who doesn't love a good fence? Have a few grasses and a fence just at the corner here. Like maybe the grasses in nature are taking over this wall a little bit. When you're making art, it's good to think about the history of stuff. I talk a lot about Simon Stalenhag in the stream, and his paintings have this retro future sense. He has these futuristic machines, but have been aged in a familiar landscape. The familiar landscape is set in 1980s Stockholm or Sweden or something. Using a little bit of color contrast, I'm thinking cools, warms, just to vibrate around the room a little bit. It seems like there was parts of Baltimore that embraced the nautical history, but I wonder if they could do more, if they should do more. I wish Baltimore was better, man. I wish it was safer. What can we do? Is there anything? Just, I feel like I should be at a seaside town today, eating some clam chowder, and watching the fishermen. If it wasn't for COVID, I'd be out in California right now, I think. Hanging out with some fam. Fam. It's really easy to get lost in a corner of a painting that you like a lot and forget that you have a lot more stuff to do. So even though I keep going back to this house, I know I should be looking around to the rest of the piece. So let's do a flip. Flip mode. So we can see this house definitely has a lean to it, which might be fun. What else can we do? Let's put a fireplace. Let's put a fireplace here, huh? It'd be fun. Just gives a little more detail, interest, something to look at. We gotta solve what's going on over here. Piling. You have boat. You have boat that has bumper on it, maybe. Maybe there's a bumper there. Be fun. I don't know a whole lot about boats, ladies and gentlemen. I know they have containers and boxes and stuff. And like engines. Motors. Just making lines, making messes. It's better than doing nothing. Well, we're making decisions, right? And then we're making decisions that reinforce our previous decisions. Or do they challenge those previous decisions? This is going to be a shady area underneath the dock, right? Again, I don't know how docks are built either. I know there's some rope. I know there's rope. I know there's bins. People leave bins of stuff out on their dock. Usually has some hoses. So next to a hose, maybe be like a water pipe thing. I'm thinking this is some kind of wall / ramp. Probably has a railing, maybe? I don't know. Just a little bit more square cut. This ramp, maybe this ramp has like a concrete construction to it. I'm just getting a little highlight along that. Oh, nope. So these are the stones. Stone wall. Just some little green plankton and stuff growing in between the rocks. Just randomly drawn rocky styles, rocky shapes. Rocky road to Dublin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'd have some stones in the road. Cool. It's starting to feel fun, right? What do you guys think? What y'all think out there on the interwebs? Write in the comments. What are you doing with your weekend? The shadows are going to be a bit blue because they're catching light from the sky. It's a little too blue. Throw in some white. But I want the front edge catching that sunlight. Maybe is there a radar on top of this? A radar, Thomas. And if we want objects to feel on top of other objects, make them a little bit lighter just to cheat it. Well, that's cheating. Yes. A little bit of that reflection of that cloud just in the water, just down here a little bit. Just a little bit. Too saturated. There we go. That's a good color. Got to do our perspective right. Little seaside scene. It's kind of fun. Kind of neat. Having a good time. Keeping the creative juices going into the weekend. That's the key, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe there's a taller boat here. I don't know, next to the lighthouse. Could the lighthouse be at the end of a pier? I don't know if that's how it works, but I'm digging it. Maybe it's a two-master. I don't know. Is that cool? What do we think? It's all right. And then maybe there's a sailboat or two out on the horizon. Bring me the horizon, says the captain to the crew. You know, some smarty pants on the crew is like, dude, I can't bring you the horizon. I can bring you towards the horizon, but the horizon will always be just too far, just beyond our reach, Captain. Let's get some 3D figured out for this wooden sailboat here. There's usually a doorway area, right? There's the boomy thing. There's going to be some sail. This is probably make the boomy thing a little lower. Boomy things over here. That's all right. It's, you know, a boomy thing. A what? A boomy thing. If I had a sponsor, it'd be time to say thanks to our sponsor, Saubles of Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania, making the best and finest donuts and confections since 1786. Tom, there weren't confectionaries in 1786 in Shrewsbury. How do you know? Maybe there were. Well, on Sauble's Wikipedia page, they've only been around since '83. Okay, fine. You got me. You got me. I don't know what I'm talking about. Where the anchor? Anchor would probably be up on top. But there would be lines, right? These things are all moored off, so there'd probably be some kind of ropey dinghy here. That's what they're called, right? Cleats. I know you got cleats. Cleats on boats, cleats on... It's usually like a running light thing too, right? Red right return. Let's see, it's coming together. We got something going on. Something's happening here. Need to go back up to Boston someday. Speaking of seaside towns, that is a place I have not spent much time in my life, and I feel like that needs to be remedied. Go see high school, middle school, elementary school buddy Matty Barcello. Be nice to catch up with my man. See some Dropkick Murphys in Boston someday. That'd be fun. Watching their St. Patrick's Day live stream last week. Ain't the same though without a crowd. Ain't the same. I'm thinking about expanding the canvas a little bit because everything feels a little constrained. Feels a little tight and narrow. This house is awfully leany. It's like, hey, whoa, man. Even the house seems to be blown a little bit by the wind, which maybe that's okay. It's a little helter-skelter. The highest level of contrast will be right at this corner, I think. And then more light is collected from the bounce of the sea and the ships. Getting into the siding work on the house. Any opportunity to make it a little 3D is usually pretty good. I don't know what this little shack is. Bait and tackle. Just the dock attendant. $5. Whatever he's selling. How do we predict the future, ladies and gentlemen? We look at the past, try some pattern recognition. Is it a Fibonacci sequence? Is it symmetrical? Is it a sine wave? We look at others to discover ourselves. What is the trend? People like to be explorers. They like to be profiteers. They want to figure out something that makes them unique, special, different, profitable, prosperous. we're going to have some shadows. Shadow, shadow. Shadows on the rock. Face a plant into a rock. If you're a fish fan. Face a plant into the rock. Some kind of bin. Maybe another bin over here. Maybe it's a green bin. Maybe it's a little green shed. Little green shed. Let's darken the whole thing just a bit. Face a plant into the rock. I have a ton of things to describe today. I'm just kind of going. I don't know if it's the caffeine and sugar haven't hit yet. I need someone to pop in and say something to the stream. Looks like a couple people liked my initial post. Kristen, Dan Hammond. It's Zach's birthday today. Happy birthday, Zach. Happy birthday, Zach. Zach, it is birthday. It was my friend Blake's birthday yesterday. Happy belated birthday, Blake. Looks like I got this godly light behind me. No, I'm just in a different part of my house. My living room is a complete mess. Should we do some show and tell? Is there time for some show and tell? Show and tell with the Tom. We got some old photos here. I think this is cool. I don't know who this is, but my mom gave me this photograph. I think it's some friends of hers, and she was visiting Europe. I think they went to Austria to go skiing in the 70s. How cool is that? How cool is that? I don't know what's going on here. Unlabeled picture. Let's go find another one. Let's find another random picture. Oh yeah, that's what I want to talk about. Shout out to my big bro Ricky. This is Ricky's CJ7 1985, I think. That thing was a piece. It looked awesome. There's little Tommy in the corner. I'm hanging out in the back, probably 12, 13 years old. Wait, am I even that old? I think Rick was like 22 in this picture. 23. This is my nephew CJ and his mom in the car there. Little Chris, if you're watching this video. My nephew Chris James. In Ricky McDonald's CJ7. How cool. Super cool. Back in Connecticut. See, I miss Connecticut. I miss all those trees. All that wood, the rock, like the mossy rocks and stuff. Miss it. Someday I'm gonna get a house in the woods. Oh, here's another view. Here's another view. Look at that. Yeah. Ricky looking cool. All right. That was fun. Fun to switch it up a little bit. If you're watching, comment, say hi. Let me know. Let me know you're there. Almost down to the bottom of the cup of coffee. Seaside Village Day. Man, I want to teleport to a port. Should I just get in the car and go down to Ocean City? What should we do? Should do something. Should do something. Sister Molly is texting. It's her birthday. Happy birthday, Molly May, if you watch this video. Happy birthday to my wonderful sister out in California, where the sun always shines. If you are a Micah student who is watching this, good luck. Society is crazy. What I would like, I have many thoughts about my alma mater. Many thoughts about Micah. Because I love the place. It did so much for me. Being an awkward, nerdy, artsy kid who wasn't cool, wasn't hip, was real goofy. Goofy and nerdy before it was cool to be goofy and nerdy. Just yet. Just yet. Now it's cool, I think. Society has become very accepting of nerdy people because relative to like how far the realm of acceptable social behavior has gotten, just being like a nerd is pretty benign and okay compared to being some like radical uh, woke political person. You can really fly under the radar pretty easy. I like that, Micah, that my classes were one class or two a day, and it was these deep dives into one subject. I can focus and then do the homework in the class. I love the studio class structure. 1 hour of instruction, 2 hours of practice, lunch or dinner break, 3 hours of practice. That worked for me really well. Take breaks once an hour for 5 to 10 minutes, get a cup of coffee, talk with some friends. Boy, I miss that academia. I miss bouncing around, and I miss having lots of like-minded or close-minded, open-minded individuals within earshot to talk to, walk down the street. Man, if you're a student right now, you don't really know how good you have it. Now, granted, there is some. I have some friends that did not have great college experiences or had some traumatic experiences in college. But I'm not speaking for them. I'm speaking for me, my experience. That's all you can count on. That's why you tune into Tomcast, not for like what I heard, but what I think. And what my experience was, college was a ton of fun. Finding the right college for you is pretty challenging, but also getting the like making that decision of cost basis, cost value basis. What's a good value for you? Is the institution one that will help you grow? Is it going to be entertaining? Is it going to be stimulating, inspiring, productive? Can you meet a inspirational group of people there? I think going to college is more about the other students than your faculty. I had some amazing faculty, though. I mean, I have to give credit where credit's due. Rich Lipsher, Susan Waters-Eller. As controversial as Michael Economos was, I did learn a lot of drawing in his class. It beat the heck out of going to a military academy, at least for me. I didn't have the kind of discipline. I didn't want discipline in order. I wanted free form, creative environment. A little bit of structure, a little bit. 9 to 3, 4 to 10, dinner in there. So not completely rigid, but not completely loose. Not like a place like my buddy Trevor went to Cranbrook for grad school. It seemed super loose there, but not as rigid as a place like RISD or Pratt maybe or SVA, and certainly not as rigid as a big university or college. Place like maybe UMBC, Go Retrievers. A lot of friends went there. Now, I bet people who went there wouldn't say it was rigid, but compared to a place like Micah, it might have been kind of rigid. What I didn't do at Micah was enough work and double checking my work. My ego was a little too big. I could have done a lot better, I think. My grades could have been better. My work could have been a hell of a lot better in Micah. But I think I had a balanced time. I had probably fun and work in equal amounts. And I was excited to do some of the homework versus if I had gone to just a regular college, I would have been completely bored. Like in regular school, I didn't like writing papers. My mom helped a lot. She would just like force me to dictate to her so something could be written. So I just didn't fail. I had a lot of help. I had a lot of help from my mother to get through public school. those grades that I had were not entirely earned on my own. A lot of help from my mother, editing papers, helping write papers. My brother Rick helped me with math when he was home, or my brother Tim, if he was home from the army, would help me with a math problem or two. I like being outside, playing in the woods, or watching TV, playing video games. Occasionally going down to New York City with my buddy Danny Hammond, maybe James Pritang. James got a little house in this little seaside house. Man, if I could teleport to hang out with James this weekend, I would do that. Have some kind of IPA, because my man collects all the IPAs. It's kind of fun. Now, so I made a bunch of decisions, and I'm now just kind of rendering. Now, I forgot there's other parts of this drawing that need to be filled in. Let's just get these little gaps. Let's get something in these gaps right now. I also should expect probably some new coworkers are hopping in on the stream at some point. Shout out to my new coworkers, Pete and Jeff and Jay, and not sure if Tony or some of the other people have my Facebook yet, but if they do, Bree, shout out to them. It's a privilege to have a job. You know, I went over a year without working, looking for work, and this new job came in through my LinkedIn. I saw a notification on LinkedIn about this job from my friend Jay, and he helped me get a new career. And Fridays, every other Friday is a day off. We work a series of 9-hour days, enough to have this Friday creative day, do your own thing, or have a 3-day weekend. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Had a pretty productive week, but still like drawing, so thought it'd be fun to share with you all out there. Hope you're tuning in, say hi. Should be on your lunch break right now, 12:12 on a Friday. Welcome, welcome. If anybody, is anybody out there? We're drawing boats. Drawing boats today. Some kind of frigate over here? I don't know what this thing is. Put some gun turrets. Gun ports. These are not turrets. Boom. Got some sails, got some rigging. Feel like I should be playing some sea shanties in the background. Some of that Wellerman song. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and cheese and rum. What's the lyric? Bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the talking is done, take our leave and go. High energy, ladies and gentlemen. I had the privilege of going on a sailing whale watch last year, about 14 months ago. God, time flies. With my stepfather, Jerry Greer, from Scotland, in Glasgow. We went out in San Diego on the sailing ship America. It was motored, unfortunately. They didn't get the sails down. Did they? Maybe they did. They might have got the sails down. We got to go see some gray whales and go for a little sailboat ride. It was really, really fun. Saw some naval activity. A Los Angeles class attack sub was coming out when we pulled out of San Diego Harbor. And on the way back in, one of the big aircraft carriers came in. Really, really cool to see. One of the crew members, who was the tour guide, was an actor who was in the movie Master and Commander, which is one of my favorite films. Paul Bettany, Russell Crowe, based on the Aubrey Maturin series of books by Peter. Is it? What the heck? Who wrote those? Aubrey Maturin series. Patrick O'Brien. Show that. Aubrey Maturin, Master and Commander. Great book series. Nice little paintings too. They kind of set the mood. A lot of nice illustrations in these books explaining what the different parts of the ships are and what nautical naval tactics and procedures were during the 1810s. It's really cool, really cool. My buddy from Firaxis, John Klotsley, let me borrow 3 of those books, and they were darn good. Darn good. Right now I'm listening to the Cleared Hot podcast by Andy Stumpf, a Navy SEAL. I'm listening to Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life on Audible. What else? Just finished up General Stanley McChrystal's book, Battlegrounds. It's really good. Really insightful. I'm about to start Miles's book on Afghanistan. Friend Luke, let me borrow that. Miles, what's his name? He's a YouTuber from the Firearm blog. He travels around the world, does a report on weapons in combat areas. Miles, book Afghanistan. What the heck? Into Helmand with the Walking Dead is the name of the book by Miles Binning. I have that book I'm looking forward to reading. Quick preview of that. Into Helmand with the Walking Dead by Miles Binning. Really excited. I like his content. Miles Binning. Ooh, it's spelled 2 different ways. Interesting. Must become confusing. He has a website called SalahReport.com. Cool. Doing some research. Yeah, this stuff. This is kind of interesting. Salah Report. Underground military production in Gaza. Iran unveils new 7.62x51 Masaf series rifle. Tactical analysis, the Al-Malek operations mistakes. It's interesting. I should go check this out. Learn some global politic warfare type stuff. All right, what time is it? Time to flip. Flip it on them. I do want to expand the canvas just a little bit more. So our resolution is pretty small. We're still operating at 2500 by 1440. Let's open it up. Let's pick a good background color. And go image, canvas size. Let's open it up to 40 inches. And maybe 20. I kind of like the height, but we'll give it a little bit more. That feels nice. And probably a good time to save. If you're watching out there, let me know how the stream's going. Are there hiccups? Is it running smooth? I need to know these things. I do not have a producer that's checking in and telling me what's going on. Shout out to my Uncle Bob if he is tuning in. I know he's on Facebook occasionally. He introduced me to a lot of the New Englandy kind of stuff. Going to Boston when I was a little kid. Massachusetts, Maine. He always liked that East Coast nautical culture. Now lives in St. Pete, Florida? No, Longboat Key. Longboat Key, Florida. Doing the sailing thing. Boating thing down there. My man loved New England, but it was too cold. Too cold, had to get away. So let's just sample these colors on the edge and fill in just a little bit. A soft brush, just kind of get a little bit darker on the sky area. Feels good. Yeah, there we go. Something going on. That's all good and fun. There's some kind of fog off the coast, maybe. Power backup is freaking out for some reason. What's going on, power backup? Feeling lonely over there? It's my other computer. This is my workstation, and over there is the fun workstation. And a painting by Krista Petro of a shark jawbone. I wonder if a power line blew over or something. But this computer's having no problems. Much newer battery backup as well. It's a good lesson for you Micah students out there. Make sure you got a battery backup and a hard drive backup. And back it up often. Every month, I would say, in college. So I lost a lot of stuff in college. One of my I think computers are more reliable now than they were in the 2000s. This computer, I mean, my PCs seem to be lasting forever. What you can do with them is less and less, but they still like operate Chrome pretty well. I mostly use my PlayStation for watching YouTube these days. It's kind of lame. There's not many games I'm excited about. It's in this game malaise. I don't think there was a lot of good creative stuff made during the COVID times. A lot of small scale things, maybe some interesting podcasts. But yeah, I feel like the arts community just took a halt. Full stop. Thinking like the wood edge is going to be a little more bluish. Not really sure. One more color. Got the wind blowing, and sometimes it makes the whole house creak a little bit. If you hear some creaking in the background, in the backgammon. There probably would be some kind of dock between these two boats, but we'll just make it on the far side of this other one. I don't know, man. Actually, these would probably all be in shadow. All this business over here would be pretty dark. Lighten up this side of the rock wall. Into the dirt. There's a silhouette of a mailbox. That'd be fun. It's got a letter. Letter needs to go out. Maybe some like more roofs on the horizon, maybe. Is that cool? I don't know. Trying it out. We're checking it out. This chimney is going to catch some light up top, right? Sometimes there's little platforms that people would build at the top of their houses. They can go up and take a look. I don't know. Seemed fun. Seemed fun at the time. Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships they go sailing. If you had a big window in your house back in the day, you must have been rich. This is fun, huh? Having a good time. Thinking about what to do with my day, man. What are you guys doing with your day out there? Going for a walk? Oh, Photoshop's sending me errors. Sending me errors. I, for one, love how calm the news has gotten. I was watching an old baseball game last night. I thought it'd be fun to just fire up the old World Series, like 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, 19, I don't know. It was 2019. Just watching an old baseball game that was on the YouTubes that I hadn't watched before. It's kind of fun. The news is just trying to create anxiety to get you to sell, to get you to buy whatever the supermarket is selling, right? And we had been living in this long peace. Eric Weinstein calls it the big nap, which is basically everything since World War II. There was nothing like that existentially that threatening to society. And we kind of going to sleep at the wheel. We got worked up over bullshit. Like, it's kind of amazing that we have sports at all. Like, compared to the Middle Ages, like the only sport in Renaissance Europe would have been tournament that we know about, which was fighting. Like fighting like rich people in armor, really expensive armor on their really expensive horses. It was like a show and tell with weapons to, to showcase dominance. And then people would show up because it's like watching a polo, like a race car mess. People want to see what the rich are up to. How are they showcasing their wealth? It's like F1 racing, yacht sailing, like all these really expensive sports. The more expensive and magnificent your sports are, the wealthier society is. And the fact that we have baseball and football players who make hundreds of millions of dollars, just that should be an indicator that things aren't that bad, man. Things aren't that bad. If we got enough that if we have that much money to throw around for entertainment, for non like life support, I mean things are pretty good. Things are pretty good. Against the hourglass of time. If every single grain of sand that has fallen through the hourglass of humanity for 100,000 years, 900, 900 million of those 100 million grains of sand were pretty awful years. Relatively, like the last 40 years have been relatively like these gold dust pieces of sand that have fallen compared to what came before, if you're a student of history. Civil war, strife, famine, pandemics and flus that killed a majority of young people, or half of Europe, like the Black Death did. Gotten really soft. But on the other hand, there's money out there for artists. You can be a professional, full-time artist. And the wealth of this civilization will support you in that. At least a lot of people. Not everybody, but a lot. So unthinkable 100 years ago, you'd have to have a trade. Maybe a blacksmith. Maybe you were a dentist who had enough money to afford some pigments to do watercolor painting in your free time. And maybe you got good enough you could sell a few of those. Yeah, there were a few famous artists, but I think they were famous because they were so rare. So who had that kind of money to have a professional artist? It'd be like having being wealthy enough in America to have your own private cook. I mean, people have private cooks and crews who man their yachts and stuff. But to be a court painter in Renaissance Europe, you'd be a pretty wealthy king. I was talking about with my friend Dorian the history of this country and how America was built on corporations. The stock market is older than America. It's important to remember, just contextually, like, well, why does the big banks get bailed out? Well, without big banks and trading companies and corporations, there would have been no East India Tea Company. There would have been no exploration and expansion into the United States when it was just Native American land. The King of England didn't really have that much money for the colonies. It was individual businessmen who funded most of the exploration and work. I think that's partly why the colonists wanted to rebel. because the king wasn't really paying for all this. He was taxing it, but he wasn't really providing much. Yeah, some security. Yeah, that army was pretty handy when you had a bunch of rowdy natives to deal with, or the rowdy French up north, the rowdy Spanish in the south. But mostly it was militias taking care of their own. So unlike the French Revolution, which was a true people's revolution against the monarchy, the American Revolution, I believe, from the history I've read, was a mercantile class revolution. It was a middle class revolution, an upper class. I mean, the English, I kind of feel like the history of wars of the English has more of that middle class flavor to it. There's a fight between the lords and the monarchy, and I wonder if my niece was asking me the question, like, why has the English monarchy lasted this long? Why are they still around? And I want to think it's because the English monarchy always outsourced power. Like the English monarchy never had complete domination. They were respected and liked as the preservers of the culture, as my friend Dorian pointed out to me. But they regularly outsourced control and work to the local lords, to the admiralty, to the parliament. The English, I think the English were better at sharing power. And for that, they were seen to be benign to the people, at least. They didn't have the really harsh, the People's Uprising, the farmers and pitchforks, which you saw in other great kingdoms. Yeah, people were treated badly. You read a Dickens novel, it was pretty rough. But I just don't get the vibe that the king and queens were blamed for the problems of the people. Something else was. They always had an existential enemy, like a bigger land nation, be it France or Spain or Russia or Germany, the Prussian. There was like some always bigger, scarier enemy somewhere. Now, whereas I know the Scots and the Irish probably hated the crown. They got beef. They got legit beef. I guess the people that would have been rebelling against England locally were the ones that ended up going to America, and then they fought their war. Maybe England just always had a pretty good military that was good at stomping down unrest. Got that Ministry of Intelligence Services. Maybe they're really good at spying. Because England doesn't have that freedom of speech like we do here. Maybe King was arresting people for sedition, thought police, Orwellian type stuff. Like Orwell is especially horrifying in the West because we have this freedom of speech stuff. Like you're free to think whatever you want to think. The government can't put you away for thought crime. You have to do something. You know, if there's imminent threat, like you planned and are ready to execute on some kind of terrorism, yeah, then they can throw you in jail. But you can't be thrown in jail just for thinking, hey, maybe it's a good idea to go topple a statue. You can joke about it. Make movies about it. In America. Russia, you can't speak out against the government. China, can't speak out against the government. Get that social credit score. It's scary, man. There's like a little bit of purple in my scenes. It's going to glaze in a little bit of purple. over this little shaded corner. Soon may the Wellerman come. To bring us sugar and tea and rum. No comments. Is Facebook not cool anymore? I get the feeling it isn't. People are on Instagram. They check the Twitter every once in a while, but Twitter is real angry. Real angry. I don't think Twitter's healthy. I just go to check it to see if anything's on fire. And if nothing's on fire, then I get on with my bad self. Moving on. Something like that, eh? So there's a lot of unfinished little areas, but I think that's okay. We can come back to this. We can keep working. What I wanted to do today was just get you maybe excited to show you the process of how I think about establishing an image or getting it started. We can always add a lot more to it. Does this image resemble what was happening in my head? Maybe 40%. I mean, I was thinking maybe a few more towns and stuff. Maybe there's like I don't know. You could even add like a green hill or like port in the background, maybe like way off in the distance. So we have the harbor. It's kind of like having some greenery in the distance kind of indicates that this is a harbor or a bay, right? And then we have some sails maybe out there. That's kind of cool. I don't know. Something way out there. Kind of fun. Sketchy but cool. Made some decisions. Decisiones. Maybe a life preserver ring over here. Kind of cool. Usually white, right? With like a red stripe around them. I don't know how they work. Something. High energy. So we do a high energy brainstorming session. We get something like this. And then later we put on some podcasts and we evaluate and keep working. What do we think? Let's do a self-critique right now. What do we think about this painting? about 90 minutes, a little bit more, give or take, into this. Again, like I said, if I'm talking and drawing, I can't do math at all. Just that part of the brain does not work. If I squint my eyes and look at this, I want a little bit more contrast in the lower left area. The lighthouse is drawing my eye maybe a little bit too much. Maybe I want to knock that back. I want to have like a bolder center cloud, and maybe these three clouds across the middle are all kind of the similar size and shape. I would want a little bit more diversity, cloud diversity going on. So let's like maybe knock this shape down to be this cloud's going to be a little bit smaller, and maybe this one is like so big it's kind of coming off the page. This one's like right over top, just to make it dramatic. And there's like a seagull flying like underneath of it that's really bright. That'd be kind of cool, right? Something like that. And then this guy will be toned back. Just give it like a 10%. 10% of that darker blue, just a layer on top of it, just a little bit, just a little bit. See, that's already a little bit better. We got medium, small, medium, big. Something I learned from Taylor Fisher. Small, medium, big. Generally, I like it. I got the sense. I like the feeling of this house on the hill. This reminds me a little bit of those stub art paintings I liked when I was a kid, and nautical theme, nautical village type stuff. It's good rotation of colors, mostly blues, a little bit of greens, some warms. I like where I'm going with stuff. I think I could get more purples in this boat in the lower right. Let's get a couple more purple notes. We'll just make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more vibrant. Just a little hit, just a little hit of purple somewhere. It just makes it exciting. I would want to work purple back, maybe back into the cracks and crevices a little bit, just a little deset, just a little, just like one of these rocks has a little bit of purple in it. Just mix it up. Just drop little hints, just little hints of color. Maybe a little bit more red in some places. That can be bright. It's like little red details occasionally. That's nice. So we got these little like red markers that dabble throughout the image. Feels good. This is kind of an accidental color palette down here with browns, blues, and grays, but it feels pretty good to me. Happy accident. Dark. A little lighter, a little bit lighter blue. Glaze over. Cool. Cool. Hope you all enjoyed this. I had a good time. This made my Friday morning more productive than it probably would have been otherwise. Maybe I'll try to find a little hike to do today. See what my buddies are up to. If we could do some COVID-safe hangout, adventuring. Who doesn't want a little bit more adventure in their life? Who doesn't want a little more adventure after 12 months of being locked down? We're living through history, ladies and gentlemen. Living through history. Your homework for this weekend is to spend 10 minutes thinking about how you feel and journal a little bit about it. How do you feel now, and how did you feel a year ago at this time? And compare and contrast the two. Were you nervous and anxious about the future? How do you feel about the future now? Don't you think it's going to be better? Don't you think we have a brighter future ahead of us that's worth sticking around and seeing? I want to stick around until the year 2066 and go to England and watch the 1,000-year anniversary of the Battle of Hastings. I want to see a reenactment with some knights and some archers, some men-at-arms, some axemen, some pikemen. I want to see what that looks like. 1,000 years of history would be fun to check out. And a little highlight on the roof of this little lighthouse doorway. Small lighthouse. Don't need a big lighthouse. Just a little place. Just a little place. So I want to knock this down just a little bit. There we go. And then have the sail be higher brightness. I don't know, man. Something like that. Check out, if you like boats, check out Schro's company, Chesapeake Light Craft. If you're in the boat market, you're looking to up your boat game. That was pretty fun for today. Thanks for joining me. That was cool. And I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the weather. Bye-bye.